Hare Krishna.
Hare
Happy
Krishna.
to be here with all of you, all of us. That's okay. The screen is off.
Yeah.
That's good. It's saving battery. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very happy to be here with all of you tonight. At what's the name of the nama-hatta? Krishna.
Nitai
Gaura
Gopal.
Prema nama-hatta. And tonight we are going to read one verse from the Bhagavad Gita together with His Grace Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu. And it's a verse from the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga. Can you hear me? Or shall I speak a bit louder into the microphone? Do we need the fans actually? Maybe we can turn off the fans. You think so? Because they create a lot of noise. Yeah. That's good.
It's still on.
No, that one is on. Separate. Okay, that's fixed. Thank you very much. Oh, what a difference, huh? Does it make a difference? But if you start suffocating, please let us know so I can turn. But we have the windows open, right? That's good. I hope we don't have any mosquitoes coming to the nama-hatta tonight for prasadam. So we are reading a verse from the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga. It's a verse 35, and I hope I'll be able to read it because. Shreyan Swadharma Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Chapter 3, verse 35. Lord Krishna says, Shreyan Svadhama Viguna. You don't repeat the verse, do you? You don't repeat the verse usually, do you? Paramatma Prabhu. But you don't have words, you have only one book here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Shreyan Svadharma Viguna. Svadharma Viguna. Maybe we should do word for word first. Shreyan
Shreyan
Svadharmaha
Swadharmaha
Vigunaha.
Viguna.
Shreyan Svadharma Viguna.
Shreyan Swadharma Viguna.
Very good. Paradharmat
Paradharma
Svanushthitat.
Svanustita.
Paradharmat Svanushthitat.
Paradharma Svanustita.
Please remember the verse, because then I'll ask you to repeat without the book. Now you have to memorize it on a single hearing. Swadharme
Swadharme
Nidhanam
Nidhanam
Shreyaha.
Shreyaha.
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya.
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya.
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya.
Swadharma Nidhanam Shreya.
Paradharmo Bhayavaha.
Bhayavaha.
Paradharmo Bhayavaha.
Paradharma Bhayavaha.
Shall we try again? Shreyan Swadharma Viguna.
Shreyastadharma Viguna.
Paradharmat Svanushthitat.
Paradharma Svanustita.
Swadharme Nidhanam Shreya.
Swadharma Nidhanam Shreya.
Paradharmo Bhayavaha.
Paradharma Bhayavaha.
Bhayavaha. Bhayavaha means dangerous. Bhayavaha.
It's
Just
Bhayavaha.
like walking at night. In some places of the world. Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Bhayavaha. Paradharmo Bhayavaha. And then she aha means oh. Fearsome, very dangerous. Bhaya means strach, means fear, and avaha means bringing dangerous. Avaha. Okay, shall we do word for word? Shreyan.
Shreyan
far better.
Far better.
Swadharmaha,
Swadharmaha,
once prescribed duties.
one's prescribed duties.
Vigunaha,
Vigunaha,
even faulty. Faulty, is it faulty?
even faulty. Yeah.
Faulty. Paradharma,
Paradharma,
then duties mentioned for others.
then duties,
Then
duties mentioned for others.
So, then duties mentioned for others. Anusthitat,
Anustita,
perfectly done.
perfectly done.
Swadharme,
Swadharme,
in one's prescribed duties.
in one's prescribed duties.
Nidhanam,
Nidhanam,
destruction.
destruction.
Shreyaha,
Sreyaha,
better.
better.
Paradharmaha,
Paradharma,
duties prescribed for others.
duties prescribed for others.
Bhaya avaha,
Bhaya avaha,
dangerous.
dangerous.
At least one word we'll learn tonight. Bhaya avaha means
Dangerous.
dangerous. Bhaya means fear, avaha means bringing about dangerous. Bhaya avaha. Okay, translation. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, it says here faultily.
Yeah.
In the word it says faulty, but now it's here faultily. It becomes an adverb instead of an adjective. Adjective is faulty, but faultily means it's the quality of action. Faultily, with fault. Then another's duty perfectly. Distraction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous. This was translation by Srila Prabhupada. Now we're going to read his purport to this verse. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I'll just read half of it.
Yeah.
I'll read half of it and then I'll turn it over to
You.
Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu, and then we'll discuss it together.
Okay.
One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness, rather than those prescribed for others. Materially, prescribed duties are duties enjoined according to one's psychophysical condition. This is the prescribed duties called swadharma. Under the spell of the modes of material nature, spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But, so now we have I'll continue reading the purport, but just want to draw your attention what we have read so far, that we have to perform prescribed duties in Krishna consciousness, and then Srila Prabhupada separates these two sets of duties. He says there are certain duties that are prescribed for our spiritual progress. They are prescribed by the spiritual master. And there are also certain duties which we perform for the maintenance of our material bodies, and those are dictated by our physiological or psychological condition. Right? So Prabhupada speaks about these two sets of duties. That's very important to keep in mind. Prabhupada says spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But whether material or spiritual, one should stick to his prescribed duties, even up to death, rather than imitate another's prescribed duties. Duties on the spiritual platform are duties on the material, duties on the spiritual platform and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principle of following the authorized direction is always good for the performer. When one is under the spell of the modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for this particular situation and should not imitate others. Okay, I'll just read one more sentence and I'll give it to Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu. For example, a Brahmana who is in the mode of goodness is non-violent, whereas a Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. As such, here.
As such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished following the rules of violence than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the principles of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness. He can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana, or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, the distinction of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana. Whereas Parasuram was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendently situated, they could do so. But as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have a full sense of Krishna consciousness.
Could you please say a few words and then I'll follow you?
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll say a few things.
35.
35, eh? So it is far better to describe one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties, for to follow another path is dangerous. There's many things, there's many points in this particular purport that
I forgot to move the microphone. Sorry.
There are many points in the purport that we could talk about performing your duty faultily even, then rather than performing somebody else's duty perfectly. I was thinking of a few things because, I was born in South Africa, I lived in the apartheid regime, and I've worked for the government also. So they used to, in the early days, in the apartheid times, they had this idea that there must be some psychometric testing before they employed people in the government services in different facets of the administration, and they would do testing, psychometric testing. And even the way we had that time the department of, what was it called? I forget the department, but it was a particular department that dealt with these types of testings. And I was subjected to some of this testing myself for human resources. And they would give you these kind of tests on, it's ink block sticks, ink block. And then they could figure out, whether you fit for, they test your emotional, your state of your emotions, and to see whether you fit into such a type of employment in a particular field. So this was done because they had this idea. The same idea is that, because of the modes of nature, they may be, it may be correct or maybe not be correct, but they did that very much, but it helped the country a lot in placing people. And therefore you find that the people who have been subjected to this type of testing were very competent as compared to now. They're very competent. So it's bad, they used to do that, but then it so happened that I saw something recently, a post of Forces Favorites. You heard of Forces Favorites? Forces Favorites was a program that was run in the apartheid times by Springbok Radio. And there was a lady called Pat Carr. And she was like, these were all the young boys have gone to the army, and the girlfriends will write, and they would write also back. It's called Forces Favorites. You know this? And it was an amazing program. But then I was looking deeply into it. In that case, they sent all the boys for army training. They were not subject to this type of testing. Whether they fit for that facet of work or being in the army. So, but still, they did it. Although it was not meant for them. Because they were decided by the authorities, the government, you have to go and train and fight. And they did it. So it was not their duty, but they did it. They did it. They tried their best, although it may not be perfect. So similarly, we see that like Brahmins are meant to do a specific type of duty. They deal with the brain, The Kshatriya deal with this power, strength. But in Krishna consciousness, it's such an amazing process that it can be interchangeable. You can do, you can do the other. You can do anything. Like I never knew anything about building, but then I was putting up buildings. I don't know anything about these things, and we started building, and I was also busy with Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj's quarters building, and I never knew anything about building. But then I had to do what I learned some things, and I just carried on. So it's interchangeable. We can, although we may chant Gayatri, but then we're placing the brick, we're getting bricks, we're carrying cement, we're carrying stone. This is like a Sudra's job. So it's interchangeable. But Krishna consciousness, everything is on the transcendental platform. Whatever you do, so therefore we don't really lose in the whole process. If we do anything little for Krishna. And yes, we're talking about Swadharma, or with the spiritual master. We engage in spiritual activities, and then these activities are under the control of the modes of nature. But the spiritual master is very intelligent. Like you see Prabhupada, he'll say one sannyasi you become the president, and the other person you should go and preach. Somehow he had this ability to figure out the acumen of a person. So this is dealing with acumen. And we leave it to our devotee, Madana-mohan Prabhu, is a initiating spiritual master also. Very learned in the scriptures and very humble at the same time. So take advantage and ask some questions. Hare Krishna.
This is set up. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions?
Clap now or clap later?
Thank you.
Shall we clap now or later?
No, don't clap.
Thank you very much, Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu. It's such a good example, actually, what he's just described. It's a perfect commentary on the commentary of Srila Prabhupada. I didn't know about that Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu didn't know anything about building. But just in the process of his devotional career, he learned something he wouldn't have learned otherwise if he were just to stick to his quote-unquote prescribed duties in the world. And this verse is in Prabhupada's commentary. It's important, as Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu said, on many levels. Number one is that Krishna, interestingly, there are only 2 verses in the Bhagavad Gita that are repeated twice. And this is one of them. One verse, it's 335, and Krishna repeats it in the 9th chapter, on the 18th chapter, verse 47, I think. He repeats it.
47, yeah. 48 is the...
47. Listen to that. Krishna comes back to this verse.
48 is the one of haughty or something also.
Krishna says, it's better to engage, and the first 2 lines are almost exactly the same. Shriyan Swadharma Viguna, does it sound familiar? Shriyan Swadharma Niguna Paradharma Svanushthitam. So far so good? The same. Svabhava Niyatam Karma. And then Krishna changes a little bit, but he gives the same message. It's better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another's occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by sinful reactions. That's one thing. So these verses repeated twice in which Krishna emphasizes the importance of following the set of prescribed rules, and Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport that those prescribed rules could be of two types. Number one is swadharma, dictated or mandated by one's material nature, and another one is sanatana dharma, which is, on the one hand, it's the same for everyone serving Krishna, but then when we get to the perfectional stage of devotional service, it becomes uniquely specific, meaning that in the spiritual world, in our sanatana dharma, the eternal service of Krishna, no one in the whole spiritual world does that service for Krishna except you. That's unique. And Krishna appreciates each and every one of his devotees in the spiritual world as performing unique service. Even if it's a blade of grass, but somehow Krishna knows that this blade of grass does its service in a very unique way that no one other of millions of blades of grass does. It's explained by Sanatana Goswami that each and every living entity manifests a particular quality, and Krishna manifests a very specific quality of Krishna for that living entity. So it's unique, you could say, spiritual genetic code, DNA, that no one else can come close or reproduce. Therefore, Krishna misses each and every one of us in the spiritual world. When we leave the spiritual world, come here, it becomes an irreplaceable loss for Krishna. So, two sets of duties, but then the second pair of verses, which are repeated again in the Bhagavad Gita, is they are related to spiritual duties. In these verses 335 and 1847, Krishna speaks about how one must stick to the prescribed duties in the material world. But then the verses 34? Manmana-bhava mad-bhakto, mam yaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says, Manmana-bhava mad-bhaktah, mam yaji mam namaskuru, mam yavaishyas is yuktayavam, atmanam mad-parayana. He says, engage your mind always in thinking of me, become my devotee, offer obeisances to me and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. And then again in the 18th chapter, both are repeated. One from the 3rd chapter, another one from the 9th chapter, but both are repeated in the concluding chapter, the 18th chapter. And this one, Manmana-bhava mad-bhakto, Krishna repeats 1965, just before the main verse. Sarva-dharman parityajya. Mamana-bhava mad-bhakta, mam yaji mam namaskuru, mam vaishisi satyam te pratijani priyasmi. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So this is very significant that these both verses are repeated twice. That means that while we are here in the material world and we have the material body and material mind, they have to be maintained. I'm sure all of you, most of you have some work to do, and that you perform your work a day job and you earn a living by doing something that you are more or less apt or suited for doing. And that's what people usually seek when they choose or select a particular kind of education. They want to see where they can manifest their full potential. But people in general don't know that one can never manifest one's full potential in the material world and material pursuits, even if one gets the best education in the most accurately tested and revealed material nature. Like Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu has just explained how here there was some testings done to help people see where they fit best. But you know what, I'm sorry for saying that blunt truth, is that when you test most people, they fit into one kind of generic, indistinguishable quality, more or less. And then you cannot be really happy. And I'm sorry if any of you, I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings, should I say that, but whatever profession you have, be it an accountant, or a public servant, or a scientist, or a doctor, or a whatever, even the President of the United States. There have been many such people before, and many will be after. And you are kind of indistinguishable, you blend with the rest of the people. And there is no way you can distinguish yourself from those around you in the same profession in some unique way that will highlight your uniqueness as a person. It's just a function. It's a function in the material world. And the function needs to be done for the sake of maintenance of the society and also incidentally for the sake of our own maintenance. Therefore, it's futile to find complete happiness in performing our material duties, even if we identify, zoom in on them perfectly, and understand exactly what we can be doing for the rest of our lives. What Srila Prabhupada starts with in his purport, I'm sure you all paid attention to that. If I ask you, what did Prabhupada start with? In his purport, he says, one must therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness. What does that mean? That means that this Krishna consciousness adds that unique spiritual dimension that makes whatever we do in the material world spiritual and fulfilling. Because unlike people of the world who may remember us for what we do for some time but will not be forever, we have seen so many already. As there was someone joked, a little bit of a dark joke. He said, graveyards are full of indispensable people. Graveyards are full of indispensable people, people that can never be replaced, right? And all there. And you know what? That place is filling up. As someone else joked in the same vein, it's a very popular place, graveyards. People are dying to get there. Which is true. But Krishna and Krishna's devotees, they have that unique ability to see through the routine, the what's the word I'm looking for? I know I don't speak on these topics often, especially in English. But they see through the routine, the homogeneous kind of indistinguishable, what's the word I'm looking for? You might help me. Something that doesn't distinguish us from the rest.
Unique.
Not unique is opposite of that.
Common.
Common is very gentle, too gentle. What do you mean to say? It's so standard, stereotyped, or some kind of like. Anyhow.
Tell it in Russian.
She had a nice word, homogeneous.
Homogeneous, yeah, it's a good word. Like bees, bees, or ants. It's a eternal race for a few glimpses of basically sensory satisfaction. But when someone does his duty, whatever the duty may be, for Krishna, then several things happen at the same time. Number one, he or she become deeply happy inside. Why? Because Krishna accepts the duties performed for his pleasure and he reciprocates. Number two, such a devotee makes an indelible impact on the people around. And number three, performing such duties gradually leads him or her to the ability to remember Krishna no matter what they do. I have examples for these 3 points. Like for number one is if you go to the office and blend with, what do they call them, cubicles? Cubicles. I have a friend, a very nice friend in India. We've just come from India and he's in India. Actually, he's all over India now. He's a world famous preacher these days in India. But I know him from the day he was a bhakta. And he joined the movement in 2020 something, 2001 or 2002 as a bhakta in a Delhi temple. And I happened to be preaching to him. We discussed many things, and then it turned out that he ran away from his house. He was the only son in the family, Indian family, and he didn't tell his family where he was. For 1 year, his family didn't know anything about him, whether he was alive or not. So somehow I counseled him, saying, maybe you should tell your parents that you're alive. and they came and they took him away from the temple and they locked him up, and they brought him to another city, put him under, what's the word, house arrest? So almost like that, deprived him of all connection with the outer world, forbade him to read books, forbade him to chant. Somehow it happened in India, of all places. For him being a devotee, brahmachari in the ashram. And then, because he's still very intelligent, very sharp, he played along with their plans. He pretended to be completely repentant and corrected by the love and affection of his parents. His father was working for the CBI of all places, he was in the intelligence CBI. Right? So he started working, and he started going to an office, sitting in a cubicle, but because secretly he was chanting when his father and mother weren't watching, he was commuting to his work and back, and on the bus he had a pair of earplugs, he would put earplugs, and he would chant Hare Krishna very attentively, not listening to the clutter of the outer world. And then he would also, he downloaded somehow on his device books, and he read books for hours and hours on end. And as a result of the spiritual practice, he was going to his office work as a regular office worker, indistinguishable, homogeneous. But people around him, and first of all, he was very happy, completely happy. So much happy that he didn't protest against his father and mother's, you could say, brutal and unjust, materialistic approach. He didn't mind. He was happy. Maybe he was even grateful to them for creating such a wonderful opportunity for him to be steeped in devotional service. But then what happened next? Listen to that. He was performing his duties dutifully. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Raghunatha Das, excuse me. When Raghunath Das wanted to run away from his house, Lord Chaitanya told him, don't do that. Just perform your duties in the family with redoubled, with even more care and dutifulness as you would have ordinarily done. So no one could suspect anything. And he gave an example. It's example some can relate to, some may not, but it's a very popular theme in some books and movies, right? As a woman who has a paramour, has a lover on the side, she does her duties in the house even more dutifully, so the husband doesn't suspect anything. Like that. I don't know if it applies equally to men. I don't know. I hope it's purely theoretical for everyone here, but that's what he told Raghunatha Bhatta. Just do that. Raghunatha Das, excuse me. So that devotee was working very dutifully. He would go to work, he would bring his salary back to the family, he wasn't married. But that would happen next, listen to that, is that his happiness that he felt by practicing and offering the results of that to Krishna also. He would purchase bhog, offer to Krishna, he would donate maybe something secretly. But most importantly, he was offering the dutifulness of his duties to his parents so that he would be happy and satisfied and not interfere with his devotional service. What happened next was he became so happy that his happiness started oozing out of him through the walls of his cubicle in the office. And the people around him who were sat next to him in the cubicles adjacent to his, they thought, who is this guy? He gets the same pay, he does the same boring job, he comes to work the same time as we do, he doesn't try to escape, shirk his responsibilities, he does everything perfectly, no one has any complaints again. But why is he so happy? Why is he so happy? I can give a nice example you can relate to. Just like food, ordinary food, like you have flour, atta, you have water, H2O, you have salt, sodium chloride, and you mix it together in the proper proportion, atta, water and salt. Mix it together, you knead it properly, and then you roll it and you bake it. And what happens? What does it turn into? A chapati or roti, right? It becomes dough and then you roll it on chapati. But then you make the same chapati with the same ingredient, the same atta, the same water, the same salt. make the same chapati on the same stove with the same pair of thongs, and then you offer it to Krishna separately. One is unoffered, one is offered, and you try both, and you feel that it's objective, it's not mental concoction. I'm a chemist by education, and that's what I did. I did that experiment with apples instead of chapatis. And the chapati that is offered to Krishna is so much tastier. It has an extra dimension. You cannot recognize the flour, the water, and the salt in this chapati, because it attains a different quality, different taste, different nature. Or like Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Puri, and his devotees came to Puri for the first time from Navadvip, from Nadia, from Shantipur, from Kulinagram, and all came to Puri for the first time chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And the king of Puri, Prataparudra Maharaj, observed them from the roof of his palace. And they heard them sing something. And when he heard them sing the Hare Krishna mantra, he couldn't recognize it. He asked Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, what is this? What are they chanting? I can recognize the words, but I cannot recognize the feeling. What is it? And he was told, this is Prema Sankirtana, a creation of Lord Chaitanya. So it's different quality. So that devotee was sitting in an office with a different quality of work. He was doing the same, crunching the same numbers, or whatever else he was doing. I don't know what he was doing. But doing the same Excel tables, or filling the same reports. But the happiness he exuded from his cubicle became so attractive, so contagious, that people around him started asking him questions. What are you? What do you do? Actually, I spoke with one of such previous colleagues. He told me his story. He said, I was sitting next to him and the guy was so happy. And I really wanted to ask him a question. And I didn't know what question to ask. I didn't know what to pin onto him. There's nothing. Okay? His happiness was completely unexplainable. It was a little bit even crazy, Look at him. And he was not drinking. He wasn't smoking, wasn't drinking, wasn't doing anything of that side. What people do to get a special kind of happiness. No. So he was walking circles around him, and finally he got enough courage, and he told him, what do you do in the morning? Because that's when you come to the office and you come already happy. So it must have been something you do in the morning before you come to the office. And the devotee told him, actually that devotee also, I should tell him, he wasn't shaved, he didn't have a shika, he didn't have kantimalas, at least not visibly. He was wearing pants and shirts as anyone else. Nothing distinguished him from the rest. And the devotee told him, well, I am a devotee of Krishna, that's what I do, I chant. In India, everyone knows about Krishna, right? Everyone knows about Krishna. Probably 1/10 of our population has the name of Krishna. But again, that quality that the devotee received from Srila Prabhupada of Krishna Bhakti, that transformed him, started transforming everyone else around that office. To this day, that person, his colleague in the office, considers this devotee his Shiksha Guru. He went on to becoming a devotee himself. He also started chanting secretly from his wife and his family. He also started offering food and following the principles, and most importantly, reading the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's book. And he understood how to combine both things. The material duties which we have to do as perfectly, as selflessly as possible, and also add to them a spiritual dimension, and that's a perfect mix. One can't exist without the other. Like we can't perform spiritual duties without really finding the material duties properly. But the combination is good, because if we find our material duties and perform them properly, honestly, so they don't become a compromise for our spiritual life, they help us become stable, satisfied as much as you can be satisfied in the material world, and also productive. You can preach to people by your example, by being a good accountant, or a good doctor, or a good scientist, or a good sportsman, or a good policeman, or a good, you name it, teacher, whatever else. A good janitor. Who was the most famous janitor in the history of ИСККОН? Janitor. No, Jayananda Prabhu.
Jayananda.
Most famous Jayananda Prabhu, who was a garbage man. He would take the garbage out of the temple. He was a temple president, he was a temple driver, and he was a temple garbage man. But he was also the pure devotee of Krishna, so whatever he did was filled with so much Krishna consciousness that people, when they saw him take out garbage, they wanted to become like him. I remember there was one person who became a devotee. He came to the temple for the Sunday feast program. He came from the back door and he saw a man dressed in uniform, you know those uniforms, like overcoat, what do you call it?
Overalls.
Overalls, yeah. And he was taking garbage out, and he asked him, is it the Krishna temple? He said, yeah, this is Krishna temple, and I'm doing this service for Krishna and taking garbage out for Krishna. And he was so happy that the person became convinced. Well, if a garbage man is so happy in this movement, what to speak of the other, up the rank, other people. He didn't, little he did he know that was Jayananda Prabhu. Or sometimes Jayananda would fix cars. He would lie down under cars, and people didn't even see his face, because in that case he saw his blissful face. But in the case when Jayananda Prabhu was lying down under the car fixing it, and his feet just were sticking out, and he would see from beneath the car that someone was walking by, again by his feet, and he would on purpose call out from beneath the car, hey there, could you please give me wrench number 22, whatever. And the guy would stop, yeah, okay, here's the wrench. And as he was handing the wrench under the car, Jayananda Prabhu would start preaching to him, speaking about Krishna, Prabhupada, Jiva, and the guy would get stuck for 1 hour there. And by the end of his helping with the wrench, he was already a devotee. Like that. Without even seeing Jayananda once. All he saw was his dirty boots sticking out. And that's what Prabhupada speaks about here. You can do whatever. Jayananda was not a Brahmana. Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu just mentioned about Gayatri Mantra chanting, but when Prabhupada gave Gayatri Mantra to Jayananda Prabhu, Jayananda couldn't remember it.
He really couldn't remember it.
He couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
He was reading and he couldn't remember, and he had to fall asleep. And then Prabhupada told him, okay, how do you remember the Gayatri Mantra? Jayananda told him how he chants it. And Prabhupada said, okay, whatever. Just chant whatever you remember. Doesn't really matter. You don't need it.
Yeah.
And Jayananda would sometimes sit in Prabhupada's class, and because he was working so hard, he would fall asleep, and which is not a good thing to do because of the spiritual master Prabhupada, right? And some devotee was kind of nudging him, okay, wake up, wake up. Jayananda would try to wake up, and then Prabhupada immediately saw that, and he cut that devotee, so stop him, said, stop, don't do that, don't disturb him. He does more service than all of you combined. Leave him alone. He doesn't need it. Like that. So the bottom line, I think we should stop here because it's already 7:45. The bottom line is that we should combine these two lines of duties. Perform our prescribed duties, whatever they are, trying to do it perfectly so people could take good example from us, saying, oh, he's a devotee of Krishna, he's so pakka, dutiful in his duties. He's a good teacher. Recently there was in Russia, one Russian city, there's one devotee who works as a wrestling trainer for kids. So people send their kids to him. He's an initiated devotee, very strong man. And he works as a trainer, as a coach, wrestling coach. And he's so good at it. People send to him their kids from all over the city. But the best part of him is that he's a deeply moral, very nice, deeply compassionate, very, very attractive, very kind, very perfect in all respects. As Prabhupada said, his disciples are perfect ladies and gentlemen, no one can find any fault with. And they actually made a movie about that man, that devotee, for 2 hours, a 2-hour movie, I have it. And they showed it several times on the TV, showing how this Hare Krishna, and they told him, he's a Hare Krishna devotee, and this is what they are. He's a wrestler, he's a trainer, a coach, and that's what he does with our kids. He teaches them to become like him. Perfect human. So this is what devotees can do. By doing their prescribed duties perfectly, they earn their living, maintain themselves, use whatever proceeds they have or skills they earn to offer them to Krishna, and at the same time show proper example to people, how one can be honest, thoroughly moral and principled person, and very happy, and pique their interest in devotional service by doing that. That will be perfection in life. And that's what Prabhupada means by, he says, you can do anything. I know a family couple, a married couple, they wanted to preach in Las Vegas, one of the most degraded cities of the world, Las Vegas. Huh? And they had to come up with some money because they wanted to preach to students. Didn't have any money, but they started performing. They started organizing preaching programs to them. They would preach to the students during the day, and they would earn money by cleaning toilets in the students' dormitory at night. Who are they by their varna? Go figure. It's like what's it called, bangis in India, the outcasts, the cleaners. By profession, by the way of earning their living, they were kind of bangis, but by their consciousness and by the result of their work, they were best of the brahmanas, because they were teaching the same students who they were cleaning up after in the toilets spiritual knowledge, like that. So this is a perfect example of how a devotee can combine things that may appear to be incompatible in his or her devotional service, because he's neither brahmana, nor kshatriya, nor vaishya, nor shudra. Actually, to call a devotee brahmana is an offense. Not just calling him a shudra or a bangi. Even a brahmana is an understatement for a devotee. He's above that. But for the sake of preaching or teaching, he can become anything. Just like an actor on stage. You know, a perfect actor can play any role. He can become a villain, he can become a hero, he can become a she. Sometimes they can just dress themselves into a lady and perfectly perform the role of a lady. They become a monster, they can become anything. But usually actors have their best kind of fitting roles, right? Either a comedian or a villain or something, or Batman or a Joker or something. So Prabhupada says this is his example. He says devotees are like actors on the stage. They go out, perform their role, convince everyone, inspire to become proper humans, and then go back to their private life. And they stop the role that they were playing on stage. They become devotees. And please don't identify the devotees with kshatriyas, brahmanas, vaishyas, shudras. They're none of those. Always remember that Prabhupada said they're devotees, they're above it. But because they're above it and they have a source of happiness from above, from Krishna, they can perform their duties perfectly for the sake of serving Krishna and for the sake of serving people in general. So this is what we could say, a few words on. Do you want to say something?
No. You're talking so much about Jayananda.
Jayananda Prabhu.
And I was just remembering when Mukunda Maharaj came here, he spoke about Jayananda.
Oh, yeah.
He gave a whole talk on Jayananda. It was maybe about like 2 hours or something, almost 2 hours. And he and Indradumna Swami were there. And then after that, Guru Premi gave a talk. She was 11 years old. And they were asking her the questions, and she was 11. I met her when she was 9 years old. She became a devotee at 9. And at 11 she was in the Vyasasan giving a talk.
Guru Premi?
Guru Premi. Yeah. So, but he spoke a lot about Jayananda, and one thing I remember about, they called him Johnny Ananda. Johnny Ananda. There's like some way he should go for the approval to have the Ratha Yatra, and there was one lady there, and she should give him a very hard time. And every time he went, he got the approval, the permission, but every time it was difficult. And then one day, he didn't go, and other devotees went because he left this world. So when he told us, she asked, "Where's Johnny Ananda?" And then said, "No, he left this world." And immediately a lady was, pouring tears from her eyes, and she was crying like anything. So there was some sort of affection for Jayananda. And I remember Mukunda Maharaj was telling all these things about Jayananda, so many other things about Jayananda. But if you have a chance, read. There is some book on it, on him. I think
it's called Jayananda Thakur.
Yeah.
By Vishala Prabhu.
Yeah, I was reading some of those
Somewhere,
pastimes.
What was his name?
So you can do that. It's just important to read more about a pure devotee.
Now his disappearance day is coming up, right? In 1 week.
Yeah, oh yeah. And he was a cab driver also. He's a cab driver. So I'm remembering much of him, what a great devotee he was, And he did any service and he was very pleased and happy. So yeah, there's so many things to talk about. I think next time we will speak more. I think when Prabhu is around, you're going to extend your stay here. Huh? He can come again and enlighten. But maybe take some questions before.
What we have
5 minutes.
We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, by the way, that devotee who I spoke about, the one who went to his office happy, he went on. What happened? Then his parents became affected by his happiness, and they started chanting, and they started practicing and became devotees. And then when they were happy, he left home, went back to the ashram again, and went on to becoming one of the leading most famous preachers in India. I won't mention his name, but if you like, I can mention his name privately. I'm sure you know him. He's a very good, very dynamic preacher all over the internet. Millions of views of his classes and everything. Became one of the most dynamic presenters of Krishna consciousness. One example it's a bit of a tragic example though, but I wanted to give. Prabhuji was reading Prabhupada's commentary that it's best to die performing one's duties than succeed in doing someone else's duty. There was an incident in one country recently. There was a terrorist who attacked people with a gun, and he started shooting. And the police, instead of protecting the citizens, ran away and they left the citizens exposed to that violence. And one janitor, actually, he came to the rescue of some people and he covered them with his own body, and he died, but he saved the kid who he protected with his own body. He became like the shielded the child from the bullets of that criminal. So the police, they probably succeeded as runners, as sprinters, but they definitely brought upon themselves shame. If they died, as that person did, performing their duties, they would have been celebrated and glorified, but now they're put to shame because they did someone else's duties perfectly, which is running. Recently had that marathon, right? In Durban, they were running. So very good at running, but that's not what was expected of them. So it's a very sad example, but that shows that one should stick to the duties prescribed. Anyhow, I think we should stop here.
Any short questions?
But we have only 5.
Long answer you'll get.
Sorry, can I just ask one question?
Yeah.
I asked Prabhu the last time, he sent me some information that I didn't read it. Connection with Krishna, the Trimurti. Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and
And Lord Vishnu, yes.
Yeah. What is the
Connection.
The connection, yeah. Or how do we base it in a whole...
That's a good question. Krishna is called Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the source of everything. He himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ham Sarvasya Prabhavam Atak Sarvam Pravartate. He also says in the Bhagavad Gita, of all the Aditis I am Vishnu, and I'm also Rudra, right? And I'm also the progenitor, the father of all living entities. So from Krishna comes his manifestation called Vishnu for the creation of this world, the material world. That's when Krishna manifests as Vishnu, when there is a need to create a material world. And then from Vishnu comes Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma comes first as his son from the navel of his body to create a particular universe. And from the space between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma comes Lord Shiva as the manifestation of Brahma's anger. But Lord Shiva has a very special position. He is like Vishnu, but not exactly like him. The example given is just like milk and yogurt. Yogurt is milk, but you cannot use it as milk. And the same Lord Shiva is Vishnu, but not Vishnu at the same time. But to put it in a very succinct form, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are in charge of the 3 modes of three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas in the material world, but all of them come from Krishna originally, one way or another. Is it okay? Raghunatha Bhatta Prabhu.
Good, very good. Yeah.
So at this point, thank you very much for your question, and thank you for coming all the way from India.
No, not
For that program. I would be especially impressed if you were flying again tomorrow. I came yesterday and flying back. Wow, look at that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I think we have to 2 minutes to 8. Paramatma Prabhu, something is telling me.
It's one question.
Oh, yes, Prabhu.
Okay, Maharaj. With that verse that you gave us on Karma Yoga, so Karma Yoga, that verse comes out from that chapter, Karma. So our karma, in other words, is telling us to do our own duty.
Karma Yoga. Krishna says it.
To do our own duty.
Right.
Krishna consciousness, self-realization, to get that goal. Is that correct?
It's correct, but doing one's own duty may be tricky. We might think that, I can just do whatever I feel like my duty is, and that will be my spiritual life. Not like that. I've just given the example. One becomes perfect in the performance of one's duties if he or she offers this duty to Krishna some way or another. It's a topic for another quite substantial discussion. But basically, it's when the devotees come into our lives and we offer results of our work to them, it becomes spiritualized and connected with Krishna. It becomes yoga. Before it was just karma. Yeah.
Yes.
Short question, though. We heard you're publishing a book.
No, it's not correct. I think I wrote to you.
Oh, I thought that part.
I don't know where it came from. I don't publish any
book.
books.
Okay.
No.
The other point, when he was quoting 1848 talks about every endeavor is covered by some fault, just as fire is covered by smoke. So all types of work you do is contaminated. But still, Prabhupada in the commentary says that fire is a pure element. And like when you have smoke, you're burning like a bola. It's a bola. It's like you burn, and then you got your hands like that, but your head on the other side because of the smoke. But you continue, because you want the heat. So he's giving this analogy that yes, in all types of work there's some fault, but we still should continue doing our work, although there's so much of fault in it. And he goes on speaking this. It's a long purport. So we go on with our duties. We tolerate it even if there's faults in it. So even if we're getting reactions, we've got bad jobs and things like that, still we tolerate it. I just thought I'll mention that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We should finish.
Thank you so much for Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We hope to receive you again. And thank you so much for your
I
details.
don't really come.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
But
Thank you.
Guru Puja.